Williams, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you had some time today in your schedule to meet with me.
No problem.
Would you like some snacks?
Absolutely.
And you know I have my fidgets there if you need. It's welcome to be used. So tell me how your day went so far.
It went really well. I did small group sessions in the classroom with some with our iReady groupings, and then I did some inclusion in ELA with my other students.
Great. I want to talk about the inclusion lesson that I saw today in the math classroom, the 7th grade math classroom with Miss Moore. I saw some really effective teaching and some wonderful things were done. And I also want to talk about some areas of improvement.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and start first. Look at the lesson plan that you shared with me in advance. I love the fact that you focus on your lesson plan on a math content skill. One of the key fluencies, you know, for 7th grade math is operations with rational numbers. So I was pleased to see that you focused on those areas in the small groups. Tell me a little bit about how you chose your groups.
Well, prior to the grouping, myself, Ms. Reed, the math specialist, and the core math teacher, Ms. Moore, we got together and based on their iReady diagnostic scores, we grouped them into a high and then like a medium and then a low. And then we grouped them together based on the similar deficits so that we could bring each group up according to what they really needed.
Okay. So were you able to share with me the current scores for the kids on the iReady?
Well, Ms. Moore printed it out. We're having some printer issues.
Okay.
But basically, the groups that I'm working with are 2 to 3 grade levels below.
Okay.
So we're working on skills that they may have either they missed or just didn't get a grasp on in 5th grade, 4th, 5th grade. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me because one of the worksheets that you were working with the kids during the Do Now session was on solving the equations and checking their solutions. And my first concern was with student number 1, you made some very good comments. You said to him, think about it, figure it out, I'll check your work and I'll come back to you as you move to session number 2. But when you went back to session number 1, student number 1, his answer still was not correct. Was that part of your plan?
Well, with that particular student, he's always looking for the guidance to the end. And I want him to be a little more independent because he has the capability of solving those problems, but he doesn't have the, what's the word I'm looking for? Stamina.
Okay.
To push through to the end. So as opposed to me giving him the answers or walking him all the way through holding his hand, I want him to actually think about some of those problems. And if that means getting it wrong for me to go back and correct him later, then that's kind of the approach that I want to take with him, because I don't want him to think that when it's test time, oh, Miss Williams is going to be here and she's going to walk me from point A to point Z on this problem.
You couldn't have said a better answer because you know research is showing that students need to struggle with the math problem. I'm going to offer you an article, a research article on Kathy Seeley talking about upside down teaching.
Okay.
And we can talk about this at our next session, but you pointed a very key point to that. We need to constructively let kids struggle with the math problems. They need to persevere in the math problems. So I would like for you to take this article back with you. We can discuss it at our next session, and I want you to keep doing what you've already started because the students do need to persist and build that self-confidence in their math skills. So great job at that. Thumbs up for that one. Okay, let's talk about the second student. With the second student, looks like he was struggling with the process or the steps for the math. You were talking about place values and comparing decimals. And you were saying that on the left side of the decimal, you need to multiply by 10. But you posed the question to him, what operation is needed to go from 1 to 10? And he answered, I'll count by ones. You said, yeah, great, but think about multiples of. So I'm going to suggest that when you teach this lesson again, when you reteach that lesson to him, maybe even have an anchor chart that can show him the matching of the place value chart you gave him with some key steps to remind him that he's multiplying and or dividing by 10 depending on which direction he goes. If you don't have anchor charts already, I've got some here for you. So before you leave, let's either you create one on your own and I can help you guide through that one, or we could do it together. What would you prefer for the anchor chart?
I would prefer to make it and then have you assess it and give me pointers on it.
Okay, I'm going to mark that. Let's do that since today is Tuesday and you're going to reteach the lesson again on Thursday when you meet again. How about we meet tomorrow afternoon
I can do
and
that.
create that chart together?
Okay.
As far as me looking at what you've already done and implementing it for Thursday.
Gotcha.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much. And then when you continue on this lesson with the place value charts, I know place value is not a 7th grade level skill, but here again, what was the determining factor on placing the value on knowing greater than and less than on the numbers they used? For example, you asked the student to compare two numbers. You gave them 0.529 and then you said 0.527, and you asked the student to either choose greater than, less than, or equal to. Why was that incorporated into this lesson?
Because inequalities are really going to be key later in the 7th grade curriculum, and we really wanted to assess some of those skills before they got to that piece of the curriculum because testing is coming up. So we wanted to start with something that they've seen before but may not have gotten a full grasp of in order to build the skill up to where they need to be for the 7th grade standard.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. And I want to point out that one of the very positive things you did with the students was you used some of Larry Bell's 12 powerful words. For example, when you talked about inequality, you asked the student to, let me check my note really quickly. Do you remember how to evaluate the value in the last problem? So you use the keyword evaluate. So keep doing that one. Later on, I don't know if you realized it, but you also said, can you formulate a plan to solve and manipulate the problem? So I was like, she remembered to use those two words. Was that part of your normal conversation with the students?
Well, I guess it is, but I do try to use as much bad vocabulary as I can because they're going to see that on those tests.
Right.
So I think I kind of do it without thinking now.
Okay, well that's great. And I'm going to offer to you also some math talking prompts to guide you. Just in case, you might want to pre-plan for those. You know, go ahead and spot these questions. Prepare them for those kids who maybe are not as verbal with you. And prompt them. So I'm going to let you take this one.
Okay.
I've got several other copies, and try to actually pose those in advance to be prepared. Be purposeful in your planning of your questioning with the students. Sound like a plan? Okay. And let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. The last positive thing I want to talk to you about was that you gave a really good life example with the kids. Someone was struggling with the problem of what number was larger than the other, the greater than or equal to inequality. And you said, if I gave you two pizzas the same size and you cut one into 100 pieces and the second into 1,000, you asked which slice was going to be larger. That was perfect. It's pizza, first of all, 7th grade kids. But it also made it relevant about the size. And he was able to give the correct answer, that the slice of the 100 piece was larger than the 1,000. Keep doing that. Keep giving those real life examples. I don't want to add more work to you, but it might make it easier for you if you actually have some pizza slices to use that as you incorporate the inequalities. This lesson you were talking about inequalities with decimals, but eventually you're going to be going with the fractions. Because I saw that you had a fraction problem number 6 in the do now. And that was a struggle for a couple of the kids to convert that mixed number. So let's try to use that. And once you make the manipulative, you don't have to make it over again.
Right.
So it's something that you can be used over and over again. And of course, you always give positive feedback. You have a very good relationship with your students. They're comfortable with you. They know that it's a safe environment to make mistakes. But you actually gave them positive feedback individually You called them by their name, and you actually allowed 2 students to actually model problems for those kids who entered your group late. So you have empowered them to struggle with a problem. You've empowered them to work through their issues, and I couldn't be more proud of you. So in addition to those things I've offered to you, is there something else that I can provide for you to make it a little easier in your next session on Thursday?
I think we already discussed you were going to go over with the anchor chart with me. I think that's about all I can think of right now.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
I did have one more thing.
Okay, sure.
I spoke with Ms. Moore about how we can evaluate the skills that we are actually teaching in the small groups.
Okay.
She went into the system to see if we could add diagnostics specifically for that skill. She said she needs more research on that. But until we get that nailed down, she suggested that me and Ms. Rodriguez submit 1 or 2 questions for the do now.
Okay.
And that'll be like a quick manual way to see if we need to reinforce that skill again or if they actually got it from our session the day prior.
Sounds like a plan, as long as you're incorporating the exit ticket as an entry into the lesson to see where you need to make some changes. That's what good teachers do. They look and reassess again. And I can assist too. I can also talk with our administrator for the iReady program and see if she can give us a quick tutorial on how to choose assessments that match the skill of the kids. So that would be my to-do as well.
Okay.
And I'll get back with you on that. Give me until Friday, because I know her schedule this week, on getting back with you on how to create an individual assessment for the kids. So we have homework to do. But it's great. Okay. Well, it's the end of the day. I know you're ready to depart.
Absolutely.
Take some candy home.
All right.
Or save it for our next session. Your decision.
I'm going to take one.
All right.
Save the rest.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.